For today's cocktail, we are going classic and we're going sort of serious mixology. So what I've got for you is a variation on the classic dry martini. This one we're calling the Rosemary Orangetini. It's aromatic, it's herbal, it's deeply flavoured. The Worthing Orange Blush Gin absolutely sings in this. So superb cocktail to get the best out of your gin. So quite simple to put together, but some technique in here that is going to make the difference between whether yours is a good one or not. So I'm going to start by taking a sprig of fresh rosemary. This is fresh, just picked it off my rosemary plant in our garden. I'm going to pick all the little pieces of rosemary. I always call them fronds, really. I don't know why I call them fronds. I don't think they're fronds, but the little rosemary leaves, I suppose. Get it all in there, and I suppose that would be equivalent to a teaspoon of fresh rosemary. Now what I want to do is I want to take a touch of my Worthing Orange Blush Gin and just splash that in there. And that's really just to help me release some of the flavours of this rosemary. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of squeeze it around. And it doesn't look like I'm doing very much actually. But what you can't tell and what is absolutely critical to the drink is that just pressing these little rosemary leaves down into that small bit of Worthing Orange Blush Gin that we got really releases those rosemary oils. And it's the rosemary oils that will combine with the gin to give the flavour that we're looking for. So just crushing that about a little bit more. You don't have to use a pestle like this. You can use anything that's just going to squeeze those oils. And even standing back here, I get that incredible aroma. All right, so I'm happy with what we've done with that. Now I'm actually going to add our full measure of the Worthing Orange Blush Gin. And what we're looking for in total is 75 ml. This is, as I said, quite a serious cocktail. So let's get 50 in there. 50, here we go. And I already had a splash, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in around about 20 this time. There we go. That's good. Now, two more ingredients to add to this. And one of them is going to be bitters. And bitters actually don't form part of what we call a classic martini. But in a lot of the drinks from that era, you would often find bitters in there. I'm not going to go with what you might imagine, which are Angostura bitters, but I'm using these. These are Fee Brothers orange bitters. There are other orange bitters out there, but these are the ones that I'm using. And I'm going to put in 3 dashes of orange bitters. So 1, 2, 3, and that will be enough. And then the final ingredient is some triple sec. So triple sec is a generic name for this kind of liqueur. As a brand, you might know it as Cointreau. So if you want to use that, that's absolutely fine. And again, I'm just going to put in a small amount, but to let you know, in case you're not aware, this liqueur is produced from the bitter oranges from the island of Curacao. So these are also orange flavours to go with our orange bitters and of course our Worthing Orange Blush Gin. So let me just put in a small amount. I'm doing this by eye, but to let you know, I'm going somewhere around 5 to 7 ml. That's enough. Okay, so now I'm going to add some ice, quite a bit of ice, and we're going to give it a good stir. Put our ice in there. And let's start bringing those ingredients together and of course, chilling it down as well. So as ever, if you've watched any of our other Worthing Gin cocktail videos where you've seen me stir cocktails before, you know that my fingers on the side of the glass are not just steadying the glass, but also checking the temperature, making sure that it's dropping down just as cold as we need it. Because cold for this sort of drink is absolutely critical. You do not want a warm version of this drink. And the temperature is pretty much getting there. Let me just pop that bit of rosemary back down. That's very good. And now we're there. We're good. Okay, so let's get our martini glass into place. This is not a traditional martini. This is quite a sort of fancy one. They call it a Salvatore martini. But any kind of martini glass will work well. And we are going to double strain this, which means I'm going to strain by holding the ice back in here. But I'm also going to take my fine strainer, you might want to call it a tea strainer, and just make sure that none of those little bits of rosemary find their way through into the glass. So just strain. You can probably tell that actually because the temperature, because it's nice and cold, it's looking slightly more viscous, which is exactly what we want. The colour, obviously, of our Worthing Orange Blush Gin coming through. The aroma of the rosemary jumping out of this drink. Let's just put that to the side. And then as far as the garnish is concerned, well, I suppose you know that If you're making a classic martini, you'd be putting in a twist of lemon. You might even be putting in an olive. It's up to you, of course. But for this, I just think it's essential. Instead of a twist of orange, which you may have thought, I'm actually going to put in a nice piece of rosemary. Just going to let that sort of sit in the glass like that. And there we go. So if you want something classic in style, but with a real punch that, like I say, makes that Worthing Orange Blush Gin sing, then try this Rosemary Orangetini.